International Training for Elders and Responsible Ones, March 2023. General Subject: Knowing, Experiencing, and Living the All-Inclusive Christ for the Genuine Church Life. Message 8. The vision, experience and enjoyment of the glorious and excellent Christ as the supreme preciousness of God for the genuine church life. Day 3. Outline. Roman number 2. The vision of the excellent Christ who appeared to Daniel in his supreme preciousness as a man was for Daniel's appreciation, consolation, encouragement and stabilization. Capital A. Christ appeared as a priest in his humanity, signified by the linen robe, to care for his chosen people in their captivity. Capital B. Christ appeared in his kingship in his divinity, signified by the girdle of gold, for ruling over all the peoples. Capital C. For his people's appreciation, Christ appeared in his preciousness and dignity, as signified by his body being like beryl. The Hebrew word for beryl could refer to a bluish-green or yellow precious stone, signifying that Christ in his embodiment is divine, yellow, full of life, green, and heavenly, blue. Capital D. Christ also appeared in his brightness, for shining over the people, as signified by his face, being like the appearance of lightning. And in his enlightening sight, for searching and judging, signified by his eyes, being like torches of fire. Capital E. Christ appeared to Daniel in the gleam of his work and move, as signified by his arms and his feet, being like the gleam of polished bronze. Capital F. Christ appeared in his strong speaking, for judging people, as signified by the sound of his words, being like the sound of a multitude. Number 1. The entire world situation is under the rule of the heavens, by the God of the heavens, in order to give Christ the preeminence in all things, to cause Christ to have the first place in everything. Number 2. Christ must have the first place, the preeminence, in our personal universe. Today, Christ, the preeminent one, must be the centrality and universality in our church life, family life and daily life. Number 3. Under his heavenly rule, God is using the environment to make Christ the centrality, the first, and the universality, everything to us. Number 4. As those who have been chosen by God to be his people for Christ's preeminence, we are under God's heavenly rule to make Christ preeminent, to cause him to have the first place in everything. Morning Nourishment. Daniel 10:5-6. I lifted up my eyes, and I looked, and there was a certain man, clothed in linen, whose loins were girded with the fine gold of Uphaz. His body also was like beryl, his face like the appearance of lightning, his eyes like torches of fire, his arms and his feet like the gleam of polished bronze, and the sound of his words like the sound of a multitude. Daniel saw a particular vision in Daniel 10:4-9. The excellent Christ, the centrality and universality of God's move on the earth, appeared to Daniel for his appreciation, consolation, encouragement, expectation and stabilization. I believe that Daniel understood that this one was the Lord as a man. That man was not only Jehovah, but Jehovah becoming a man. In God's view, there is only the fact but no time element. In the universe, there is the fact that the triune God became a man. This is revealed in Matthew and Luke. But in Genesis 18, when 3 persons came to Abraham, there was one among the 3, who was Jesus as an ordinary man. In Daniel 10, this man appeared to Daniel as the excellent Christ. Today's reading. First, the excellent Christ appeared in his priesthood, for taking care of his chosen people. He appeared to Daniel, not wearing armor for fighting, but dressed in a linen robe, the Old Testament priestly garment. At the time of Daniel 10, Christ himself, God's centrality and universality, was a priest, taking care of the children of Israel in captivity. He is a priest in his humanity, taking care of God's captive people. Second, Christ appeared to Daniel in his kingship, signified by the golden girdle, for ruling over all the peoples. A girdle is for strengthening. Christ's kingship is signified, not by linen, but by gold. His priesthood is human, whereas his kingship is divine. For his people's appreciation, Christ appeared also in his preciousness and dignity, as signified by his body, being like beryl. The Hebrew word for beryl here could refer to a bluish-green or yellow precious stone. This signifies that Christ in his embodiment is divine. Yellow, full of life. Green, and heavenly. Blue. Furthermore, Christ appeared in his brightness, for shining over the people. His brightness is signified by his face, being like the appearance of lightning. Christ's enlightening sight, for searching and judging, is signified by his eyes, being like torches of fire. Christ also appeared in his gleam, like polished bronze, and his work and moves, tested by people, and testing people. In typology, bronze signifies God's judgment, which makes people bright. Christ was judged, tried, by God. And God's trial and judgment made him bright, like polished bronze. Such a Christ is the one who has been tested by others, and who also tests others. Finally, Christ appeared to Daniel, and is strong speaking for judging people. His strong speaking is signified by the sound of his words, being like the sound of a multitude. The Christ whom Daniel saw was such a one. He is precious, valuable, complete and perfect. As a man, he is the very centrality and universality of God's move to carry out his economy. As the priest, he is taking care of us, and as the king, he is ruling over us. How wonderful he is! Verse 7 says, I, Daniel, alone saw the vision, for the men who were with me did not see the vision. Because the vision of Christ was spiritual, not physical, it was seen only by Daniel, and not by those who relied on their physical sight. Concerning seeing the vision of Christ, the physical view avails nothing. For this reason, in the eyes of the worldly people, Jesus is merely a human being. But under God's mercy, and with a spiritual view, we may see how dear and precious Christ is. This is the end of Day 3 of Message 8.